Hello, welcome to the podcast AnonX. Welcome to the deep dive, where we unpack fascinating topics from your sources, helping you quickly grasp what truly matters. Today, we're diving into a truly intriguing blend of pop culture, unsettling prophecy, and widespread public anxiety. It's all centered around a elusive Japanese manga artist. We're talking about Ryo Tatsuki. Her predictions, particularly one looming date, July 5, 2025, are currently causing quite a stir, rippling far beyond the pages of her manga. We're seeing this impact everything from social media conversations to actual international travel plans to Japan.
It really is a compelling case study. It shows how information, even when it's, unscientific or seems fantastical, can gain significant traction and profoundly influence real-world behavior. So our mission today is to thoroughly explore Ryo Tatsuki's story, really dissect her most talked-about prophecies, understand the public's reaction, all the intricate layers, and critically examine the broader phenomenon of belief and predictions, especially, when real-world consequences are at stake.
Okay, so let's begin at the beginning then. Who exactly is Ryo Tatsuki, this reclusive illustrator who's now being dubbed Japan's Baba Vanga, and what's the story behind her seemingly prophetic abilities?
Well, Ryo Tatsuki is, at her core, a manga artist. But what makes her unique is her long-standing claim to possess precognitive dreams. She states she's been diligently recording these visions in a personal dream diary since way back, 1976. So this isn't exactly new for her. It's a decades-long personal thing. Her most notable work, the one that compiles many of these visions, is the graphic novel The Future I Saw. It was first published back in 1999. It's described as this kind of surreal, almost abstract mix of art, personal dreams, and what she presents as actual predictions. Now, the original copies, they became incredibly sought after, especially more recently. We've seen them selling for upwards of 200,000 yen on the secondhand market. That's more than $1,800.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's particularly fascinating and maybe added to the mystique is that for a while, an imposter was actually claiming to be her. It just kind of muddied the waters around this already pretty unusual phenomenon.
So if the original was from 99, how did these prophecies resurface so powerfully now? Did she re-release it or something?
Exactly. She released a complete edition in 2021. And this is really where much of the current discussion truly ignited. This new edition didn't just give more details on some past prophecies, it also introduced previously unreleased ones, including the one that's causing all the concern now. And interestingly, the cover of this new edition changed quite a bit. The girl on the cover, who was crying before, now appears calm and holds a sprout. A lot of people read that as suggesting maybe a more hopeful or resilient outlook, despite the, pretty dire predictions inside.
It's quite a leap, though, isn't it? From a quiet manga artist to someone whose work is actively shaping real-world decisions. What specific events really pushed her into the spotlight and made people actually take these claims seriously?
Yeah, her rise to widespread prominence, especially in the public mind, is largely down to several eerily precise past forecasts. The most significant, without a doubt, is the March 2011 Tushoku earthquake and tsunami. What's kind of chilling about this one is how specific it was. On the cover of her original 1999 book, it clearly stated, "A great disaster will occur in March 2011." And that lined up almost exactly with the real event on March 11, 2011, a devastating magnitude 9.0 quake. The huge tsunami. Over 15,000 people dead, and of course it led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. That level of foresight, even if you think it's coincidence, it's enough to grab the public's imagination, right?
That alignment with Chikoku is, undeniably striking. But when we look at other claims, like, say, the COVID-19 pandemic or celebrity deaths, how do we critically differentiate between maybe genuine foresight and what might be a more general, or even, looking back and fitting it in interpretation of vague dreams?
That's a really crucial point, because not all of her supposed hits are quite as clear-cut as the 2011 earthquake prediction. She's also credited with predicting the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020. This was based on a dream from 1995 about an unknown virus spreading 25 years later. Now, the timing aligns, sure, but the detail about an unknown virus is, fairly broad, isn't it? Then you have the claims about famous people dying, like Freddie Mercury from Queen, who died November 24th, 1991. Tatsuki claimed a dream about his death on that exact date, but back in 1976.
Okay.
And Princess Diana died August 34th, 1997, from a dream dated August 31st, 1992, depicting a woman named Diana. But in Diana's case, the dream was off by 5 years.
5 years off.
Yeah, 5 years. And it didn't explicitly mention her death, just a woman named Diana. So this kind of highlights how even the hits can involve a degree of looking back and fitting it, or maybe a generous reading of the details. She also claimed to foresee the Great Hanshin-Awaji earthquake in Kobe in January 95, but the details around that one are a bit more complicated too.
Okay, so it sounds like interpreting these past events is, well, far from straightforward. But let's turn to the immediate concern now. What exactly is this upcoming prophecy for July 5, 2025, and why is it causing such widespread anxiety right now?
Right, this brings us squarely to the current source of all this anxiety. In that 2021 complete edition of The Future I saw, Tatsuki included a very brief but incredibly ominous note. It's since gone totally viral. It just says, on July 5, 2025, a great catastrophe will happen in Japan. That direct, unequivocal statement is what has really gripped public attention.
Just that line, or are there more details?
Well, beyond that single line, some interpretations pulled from her complete edition specify this catastrophe as a massive tsunami, one caused by an underwater volcanic eruption. Her vision apparently described the sea boil south of Japan in July 2025, leading to a mega tsunami. She even pictured a literal crack opening up under the seabed between Japan and the Philippines. The predicted waves, she says, could be 3 times taller than those from the 2011 tsunami.
3 times taller? That's
I mean,
that's an absolutely terrifying scale. It paints a truly apocalyptic picture across such a huge region. What does this specific vision, the sea boils, tell us about the cultural anxieties it might be tapping into, and what kind of impact zone did she actually envision?
exactly. The scale is enormous. She specified that this event could hit not just Japan, but also Taiwan, Indonesia, China, Guam, Palau, and South Korea, and potentially striking at 5:01 a.m. on July 5th. This huge geographical prediction, combined with the extreme scale, it definitely plays into existing anxieties about natural disasters in the Pacific Ring of Fire. It's a region that's always aware of that risk.
And the real-world consequences of this particular prophecy, that's maybe the most compelling part of this whole story. Given her track record, whether it's perceived or actual, why is this prediction sparking such widespread, tangible fear right now?
Well, the primary reason, like you said, is the perceived accuracy of her past predictions, especially the 2011 earthquake. That single event being so devastating and so specifically linked to her book, it's lent this undeniable, almost mythical sense of credibility to her latest warning. For many people, that past hit just outweighs any number of misses or vague ones.
So the past success fuels the present fear.
Pretty much. And what really amplified this, took it from a kind of niche cult following into a national, even international discussion, was the reemergence of her work in 2024. It got widespread international coverage, particularly from big outlets like VCE and Bloomberg. This global media attention, combined with the rapid spread on social media, it transformed a relatively obscure Japanese manga into a trending global topic. The hashtag July 2025 prediction was trending in multiple countries. It just became this echo chamber amplifying the fear.
It's just astonishing how quickly a prediction like that, seemingly fantastical, can translate into measurable economic and social shifts. What concrete examples are we actually seeing of this fear taking root?
Oh, the fear is having very real, quantifiable consequences. International travel to Japan is seeing a significant dip, particularly from Asian nations like Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, specifically for that period. We've heard reports, tour operators facing mass cancellations, airlines having to adjust capacity because travelers are suddenly hesitant to visit during late June and early July.
Really? Like noticeable drops?
Yeah, big time. For instance, flight bookings from Hong Kong alone reportedly dropped by 50% compared to last year for the overall period, and an alarming 83% decline specifically for travel dates in late June and early July. Airlines are literally reducing flight schedules.
Wow, 83%.
It's huge, and this is really hitting Japan's tourism-dependent economy hard, which was just starting to bounce back properly from the pandemic, and it goes beyond just tourism. In a really surprising development, this collective anxiety has even led people to start buying and stockpiling rice.
Stockpiling rice, seriously?
Seriously. It just shows how quickly collective anxiety can create this artificial demand that drives the price of a staple food like rice to historical highs within the country.
That's a powerful illustration, isn't it? How belief, even without any scientific grounding, can create actual market forces. I read even the Chinese embassy in Tokyo apparently issued an advisory.
That's right. They urged Chinese nationals to be vigilant due to potential natural disasters. They didn't name Tatsuki directly, but it was clearly responding to the public feeling. It kind of feels like a tacit acknowledgement of how widespread the concern is.
Yeah, it highlights the real-world pressure.
Absolutely. But, while the hits grab all the attention and get lodged in public memory, it's really crucial for us to look at the broader context of her work. Tatsuki has these thick notebooks full of dream records, right? Spanning from 1985 to 2004. But objectively, only a tiny handful are considered hits. The vast majority of these dreams just didn't come true, or at least not in any way you could clearly verify.
Where you don't hear about the misses as much.
Exactly. Like, for example, a prominent prophecy right on the cover of the first edition of The Future I Saw depicted the eruption of Mount Fuji. That was in a dream she recorded in 1991. Thankfully, that event hasn't happened, despite being right there on the cover. There's a common cognitive bias here, sometimes called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
Okay, what's that?
It's like shooting randomly at a barn door and then drawing targets around the bullet holes you made. It makes it look like every shot was a bullseye. And that's kind of how ambiguous prophecies can be retrospectively fitted to real events, especially when all the misses are conveniently ignored or forgotten.
So it's not always straightforward. There's a strong element of how we interpret these things after the fact, which raises a bigger question, I think. How do psychologists and scientists view this whole phenomenon? And what does it tell us about maybe the human desire to believe in predictions, or perhaps just our susceptibility to fear?
Well, from a purely scientific standpoint, the authorities are very clear. Institutions like the Japan Meteorological Agency have definitively stated there is no scientific basis for Tatsuki's claims. They emphasize that precise earthquake prediction is just currently impossible with any known technology or method. The Miyagi Prefecture Governor, Yoshihiro Murai, also publicly dismissed it as unscientific evidence spreading on social media. They sort of have to push back because the fear is real.
So science says no, but the belief persists. Why?
Yeah, this phenomenon is a powerful case study in cognitive biases. We see confirmation bias everywhere here. People selectively remember and amplify the hits, like the 2011 quake, while overlooking the countless misses in her decades of dream diaries. Our brains are kind of wired to prioritize and remember those striking alignments. It cements the belief, even if tons of other predictions just fade away.
And then there's the collective aspect layered on top, right? It's not just individual belief, but how that fear then spreads through groups.
Precisely. Then you see crowd psychology kicking in. Social media acts as this huge echo chamber, rapidly turning individual anxieties into a collective, almost tangible fear that drives real-world behavior, regardless of the science. When you see others around you reacting, stockpiling rice, canceling travel, it gives this powerful social validation to your own fears, makes them feel more legitimate,
What's really striking here, though, is that the sources even point out that Tatsuki herself has apparently asked her readers not to take the predictions too seriously.
Yeah, that's right. She's reportedly urged them to consult experts and not base their actions on fictional narratives.
Yet the impact just keeps going. It's almost like the phenomenon has taken on a life of its own, completely separate from her original intentions, maybe.
It absolutely seems that way. And The Future I Saw isn't unique in creating this kind of widespread apprehension. We can draw clear parallels to other famous prophets whose predictions have captured public imagination and, sometimes, caused widespread panic. Ryo Tatsuki has been explicitly called the new Baba Vanga, right? Referencing the late Bulgarian mystic known for her own extensive prophetic legacy. Some claim she predicted 9/11, natural disasters. Baba Vanga herself famously got the nickname Nostradamus of the Balkans.
And Nostradamus himself, of course.
Exactly. Nostradamus, the 16th century French astrologer. He left his prophecies in those notoriously mysterious quatrains. Many believe they foresaw everything from the French Revolution to world wars and 9/11.
It seems like a recurring theme throughout history then, regardless of the prophet or the culture. What connects these prophecies across time and these different figures? Is there a common thread?
I think what often connects them is their inherent ambiguity. This allows for incredibly broad interpretation and, crucially, that retrospective fitting to actual events we talked about. Examples are everywhere, really. Think about the misinterpretation of the Mayan calendar that led to the whole 2012 doomsday panic.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Or even the widespread fear around the Y2K bug at the turn of the millennium. These demonstrate how vague or misinterpreted information can trigger profound collective anxiety. It leads people to fill in the blanks with their own deepest fears and sometimes wildest imaginations. The human mind is just incredibly adept at finding patterns, even where none might actually exist.
It really does highlight how readily people can fill in those blanks with their own fears and interpretations, especially when presented with something as compelling as a prophecy. So as we approach July 5, 2025, how should we, as informed listeners, view the future I saw? Is it a true vision of what's coming? Or is it maybe a powerful story shaped mostly by our own minds and fears, just amplified by the digital age?
Well, While the uncanny alignment of some predictions with real events is undeniably striking, particularly that 2011 earthquake, it's also really important to remember a fundamental truth. Japan is a country highly prone to natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis. They're an inherent, unavoidable risk just due to its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire, and the scientific consensus remains solid. Precise, short-term prediction of these events is simply not possible right now. However, the phenomenon surrounding Ryo Tatsuki's manga serves as a potent reminder, not necessarily of the future, but maybe more about the present. A reminder of the profound psychological power of belief, the incredible speed and reach of information in our digital age, and our innate human tendency to seek patterns and meaning, even, in the absence of scientific evidence.
So what stands out to you most from digging into this? Maybe the true takeaway here isn't really about whether the prophecy itself will come true, but perhaps what it inspires in people.
Indeed. I think that's a great way to look at it. Prophecies like this should never be a source of paralyzing fear or irrational panic. That's not helpful. But if they happen to inspire readiness, encouraging people to maybe prepare emergency kits, review their evacuation routes, ensure their loved ones are safe, engage in constructive preparedness measures, then perhaps they've already served a valuable, albeit indirect, purpose. Regardless of their scientific basis, it's a reminder that awareness and preparedness, not fear, are always the most valuable responses to potential risks, real or imagined.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.